We're about 2.5 months into the new year. How are you doing with those resolutions and goals? If you're like me, I'm starting to fall behind in some areas. And I know for others of you, you have completely given up on that goal or gone back to old habits. And I know that that is tough to admit to ourselves. And I've actually got some more bad news for you. Remember that old saying that it takes 21 days to create a habit? Well, they've done further research and they have found out that it's actually 66 days to form a new habit. Ouch. But I do have some good news. You see, there's a secret ingredient that we don't talk about when it comes to goal making. And this ingredient is not a substitute for hard work and discipline, but I do think it's one of the most significant factors into accomplishing our goals and developing new habits. I first came across this ingredient several years ago when I wanted to blog. Here's the story. About 10 years ago, I decided to start blogging. So I created my blog site and began writing my first post. And that lasted for a few months. And then, as you can imagine, I stopped. What happened? Life got in the way. I got busy. Other things became more of a priority. And most importantly, I just lacked self-discipline. And I would continue this pattern for several years. I'd start blogging, stop, start blogging, stop. And then in 2012, I made a commitment. I was going to blog once a week for an entire year. And guess what? I did it. So what changed? My eagerness and excitement were the same. My passion for blogging hadn't changed. But you see, before I started this goal this time, I shared my goal with a friend of mine. And I asked her if she would proofread my blogs because that's something she was good at. I didn't realize that that simple request would change the trajectory of my goal and help me accomplish it. You see, the pressure of knowing that someone expected me to send them a blog every week was just the motivation I needed to accomplish the goal. The secret of missing ingredient to goal making and developing new habits, it's accountability. Pastor and author Craig Rochelle says that accountability closes the gap between intentions and actions. For some reason, I think we feel like that we should just naturally have self-discipline, and if we don't, we're a failure. Well, that's just not true. As Jesus said, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. We all struggle. We all have weaknesses. We all lack self-discipline in some areas, and we need accountability. The sooner we admit that, the sooner we are closer to accomplishing those goals by bringing other people in our life to help us out. So as you review those goals and habits that you want to create, here are a few aspects to an accountability relationship that you need to consider. The first one is the right person. The person you choose to help hold you accountable will make or break your goal-making experience. It is that important. In my opinion, this person needs to have 3 key characteristics. The first one is that they are firm. Now, I don't mean that they beat you down when you make a mistake or mess up, but what I do mean is that in a gentle manner, they bring it up. They hold you accountable. They encourage you. They don't let you settle so that you can keep moving on with that goal. But while they are firm, they are more of a cheerleader than a critic. I can remember my first boss told me, he said, Shawn, you probably heard this before, you should say 5 encouraging words for every 1 critique or negative thing that you say. That means that 80% of the time, we should be speaking positive, encouraging words. And your accountability person should be doing the same thing. The final aspect that they need is they need to be committed. They need to make you a priority and they need to make time for you and your goal and to hold you accountable. The second aspect to an effective accountability relationship is the right atmosphere. You see, every accountability relationship should be known for authenticity and vulnerability. You need to be willing to humble yourself and share your mistakes and weaknesses. And you need to give them permission that they can hold you accountable and they can speak into your life. I heard a story about Marion Jones. You might remember her. In the 2000 Olympics in Sydney, she won a gold medal. She was a great track and field star. But after those Olympics, they found out she was cheating. She used performance-enhancing drugs, and she lied to Congress, which put her in jail. About a month before she was going to get out of jail, a reporter asked her, "What led you to start cheating in the first place?" And she said this, and I think these words are powerful. She said, "I began distancing myself from people who would give it to me straight and surrounded myself with people who would only pat me on the back." It reminds me of what we learned in geometry class, if you remember in high school. If you have two lines and they're only a degree apart, the further you go in time, the greater the distance goes. We need people in our life who will give us course corrections so that we can stay on track and accomplish those goals. The final aspect to a great accountability relationship is the right timing. You see, you need consistency. You need to meet with this person regularly so that they can hold you accountable. In fact, in my opinion, the best way to do this is find someone with a shared goal. Here's what I mean. Let's say that you want to work out in the morning. Find someone who wants to do the same and then commit to meet at the gym at the same time every morning and work out together. That simple motivation of not wanting to let them down will make all the difference in the world. If you can't find somebody, ask somebody to text you in the morning and that you will text them back and let them know how you're doing. As we wrap up, learn from CrossFit. Here's what I mean. Now, I've never done CrossFit before, but I am fascinated by the model. It's amazing how much people stick with CrossFit. Now, one of the reasons is they've paid money and they want to get the most value out of that. But the other reason is that they've created this community of people that kind of subconsciously or indirectly holds everyone accountable. And that's why most people stick with it. So here's your game plan today. Create a community around you to hold you accountable. Focus on one of those goals or habits that you want to create and find one specific person to hold you accountable. Do that for an entire month. And then as you keep doing that, find another goal or habit and find another person to hold you accountable. If you do that for an entire year, you will have 12 goals accomplished or 12 new habits created. Let's wrap up with our tweetable lesson. Accountability closes the gap between intentions and actions.